G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Pauleanna Reid from the WritersBlok, based in beautiful Toronto, Canada. Thanks for your time today.
I'm happy to be here.
And let's start with how we know each other. It was it Pod Booker that we think connected us? Yeah.
Yes, that's where I'm thinking we connected for sure.
Yeah. Well, tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am widely known as a journalist. I'm at Forbes Business Insider as a freelance reporter, but I have a celebrity ghostwriting agency that I started in 2017, and we help the world's leaders and doers turn their personal stories into brand assets.
Great. Yeah, I'd really appreciate the value of good writing and good copy. And probably 10 or so years ago, it really struck me how important that is in marketing, how powerful words can be. So I think you're in a great space, and particularly for our audience, because I do think it's something that's underdone in small businesses. They don't value or appreciate good copy.
Yeah, and I also think that now more than ever, we expect to hear from the founders of companies. And so we're seeing a lot of think pieces, we're seeing a lot of speeches, we're seeing more participation on social media. So we help them think about what they stand for, their morals, their values, their belief system, what they want to fight for, and what conversations they want to contribute to, because, CEO activism is very important.
It is. And consumers in particular resonate much more with an authentic person and story rather than just a bland corporate, facade.
Exactly.
How did you start out?
So I was a side hustler for 10 years. I was an executive assistant in the corporate retail industry. And in January 2019 is when I decided to transition. I mean, I've been a writer since I could hold a pen, but I didn't start writing professionally, getting paid for my work until about 2000. 2010 is when I really started, because I started a blog. And then I naturally progressed. I was actually scouted by a publishing house to start writing for Canada's major newspapers. So I was published in every major newspaper across the country for about 4 or 5 years. And then I wrote a book. And I think that it's really important to allow your dreams to evolve. I mean, I thought I was going to be a poet, a songwriter. I thought I was going to be a journalist for as long as I can, as long as I pursue this profession. And then I came across a really interesting article in 2014, actually in Forbes, oddly enough, about a ghostwriter. And it really opened my eyes to the possibility that this was a really underground market. Not a lot of people know ghostwriting in the context of music and writing lyrics, but not in the world of business. And so I had an aha moment, and I knew it was something I wanted to pursue.
Yeah, and that resonated with you, something you're passionate about. And for the audience, ghostwriting, so you work with someone, say a CEO or a business leader, get to know their story, and then you help shape that into words for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we work with politicians, celebrities, athletes, executives, founders, and we help them turn their personal stories into brand assets. So what that means is, it could be in the context of a book, of a speech and website copy, social media captions, a bio. We pretty much help them shape their narrative because, as you know, cancel culture is very real. We have leaders who are, losing their entire livelihoods based off one tweet or based off a misstep. And so I like to, I think that individuals who have attention, I don't want them to waste it. So what do you really want to say? What do you want to fight for? And we hope that we give our clients a safe space to be able to articulate what they're most passionate about and what they believe in. And then we strategize how to articulate that to the rest of the world.
And in 2017, when you decided to make the jump into your own business, how old were you then?
So I decided to make the jump actually in 2019. So that was only what, 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago. So, but I started in 2017 is when I started the business.
Yep.
And honestly, in my 20s, I had big dreams for myself. I was in a corporate job and I was quite comfortable, made a cushy salary, but I knew that, a job may determine your salary, but I can determine my total income. And so I always believe that the number that they put on my job letter, that was what the company can afford. That wasn't equivalent to my true value.
Yep.
And so by the time I made that leap in 2019, I had made 147,000 from my side hustle.
Yep.
And so over 6 figures from my side hustle. And then I decided, the chapter is probably over and I should proceed.
Yeah.
So.
Great. And so, roughly how old were you then?
27.
Great. Very brave.
Very, it's one of the scariest things I've ever done. But I think I want people to also know that it's okay to be a side hustler. Yeah. Like not everyone has to make the jump. I don't think everyone's even capable of being an entrepreneur. And I think that you should test the waters by having a passion project on the side and seeing how that can evolve over time.
Very good advice. Do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business?
So this year we're projected to hit, we're just around the bend from hitting $500,000 in revenue.
Yep.
And every year since I've launched the company, year after year, we have grown. And I attribute that to doubling down on customer service. I think a lot of young founders are so obsessed with attaining new customers. But if you take care of home, if you take care of your backyard and you work on the life cycle of that client relationship, repeat business will keep you in business. And so that has been my secret sauce. I'm really big on curating the customer experience. As
well as a repeat business, obviously, there's also referrals if you look after your customers. Yeah. And what about how many did you started just as yourself? So one full-time equivalent. And what would you have about now?
Yeah. So right now we have around 10 people on the team. Yep. But when I was in my corporate job, honestly, most of my paycheck went to, I hired a freelance writer, so that we would share projects. And then I slowly hired before I actually needed people on my team. I didn't want to wait until I was maxed out to capacity to hire. So most of my savings and my corporate paycheck would go to my team. And I started building well before I needed people, but I wanted to have players in place because I knew where the company was going.
Yeah, great. Very, very wise. When was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
The moment I felt like I succeeded, was when I started gaining the confidence to sell projects that were upwards of $40,000, $50,000, to be honest. I think sometimes we suffer from imposter syndrome or analysis paralysis or our money mindset, right? Our money mindset, money behaviors, how we were raised all plays a part in our confidence around money. But when I developed the confidence to start talking bigger numbers and not backing down, I think that's when I was like, okay, I definitely have something here and I'll be okay. Before I left my corporate job, two things were really important to me. Number one, that I paid down my debt as much as possible. So I paid down just about over $50,000 worth of debt. And then what was also important to me is that I could look back a year from the time I quit, and I had a consistent track record of sales.
Yep.
I feel like once you have that muscle, once you've exercised that muscle, like you will be okay. And there's really nothing to worry about.
What does success look like to you?
Success looks like, giving more than what I take from this world. Ghostwriting is an industry where I don't get credit. Right? My name is not in lights. I'm not going to be famous as a ghostwriter. I'm well known, but it's all about the client. The client is the one with the attention. The client is the one with the platform and the profile. And my job is to make sure that they can navigate their certain sensitivities, right? Cultural, societal, generational, that they have the right language, when they step on stage. My job is just to be their aid. And so to me, that success is like servant leadership.
Yeah. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business? I think I know what you're going to say here. Look after your customers.
Yeah, look out for your customers, but also, leveraging social media, right? I think that it's important to illustrate and showcase your receipts, showcase your expertise. So I have a presence on social media. I love public speaking engagements. I reply to comments. I reply to DMs. I keep my door open for people who want who have questions. And I think that's really important to spread seeds, plant seeds, water them, nurture them, build relationships, because a lot of my community, if we go back to Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans, like my community spreads the word for me. I don't invest a lot of money into ads or anything like that, because my community, they tell the people around them, and inquiries are constant.
Yeah, great. And how did you fund your business? Any investment along the way or bank finance?
Definitely myself. I wanted complete control. That was a decision that I made. So definitely no outside funding.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry? I think from the sound of the passion, you'd say yes. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I really love my industry, and it's also very male dominated. So as a Black woman with an all women of color team, we definitely stand out. And that's really important to me, to show other women that this is a viable option for them. Because I think when people think about writing, they automatically think journalism or copywriting. And I think ghostwriting is something that's such an untapped market that a lot of people don't even know it exists, and that it's very lucrative.
Yeah. And can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Honestly, like not really understanding my numbers. And so I think that the team that takes you to the team that takes you here can't take you there. So I'm actually going through this right now. I had an accounting team that got me to this point, but realized that, they're a little bit sloppy. And strategically, they're not the individuals who can take me to the $1 million mark. So I'm in the process of switching my accounting team completely, my wealth advisor, my bookkeeper, my accountant, because I was so focused on my clients and my team and, marketing and, all these other things that I wasn't necessarily paying attention. And yeah, I think, it's partially my fault, partially my team's fault. And so I take ownership of that. So honestly, it's the biggest headache and the biggest pain point, because if you don't understand your numbers, then it's going to stifle your growth. And so right now I'm in the process of going through and being more detailed and strategizing how I can reach the $1 million mark, because as a female founder, many of us don't necessarily hit that mark. A lot of us are building businesses. Not many of us are sustaining them. Yep. So it's so in order to be here for a long time, I got to pay more attention.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Honestly, definitely within the last year since the pandemic, leadership. I took a women's leadership course at Yale recently, and I think a lot of us had to unlearn and relearn some things as leaders, because you couldn't lead your team the same way. And if you're going to have a highly productive and a highly functioning team, it starts with the head. It starts with you first. And so I had to learn to be a more compassionate leader. I come from a long list of monster bosses in my corporate career. So for me, I feel like I naturally took on those traits, which is not what I wanted, but I mean, it is what it is. And so, so honestly, I would say that definitely answers the question. Leadership, I had to really train myself to be a better listener and be more compassionate.
So you've had a lot of arsehole bosses in the past.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And you thought that's the way to manage and lead.
You know what? It built, I have such tough skin.
Yeah.
But I will say this, like those same assholes, there were times when, I don't know. I think I take well to individuals who are very direct in their approach. Right. Yes, I've had my times when I've, cried myself on the office floor, but I think everyone adapts to a different leadership style. And, even though they're assholes, honestly, I'm thick as nails and I'm tough as nails and I have thick skin. And so for me, it kind of worked in my favor, but looking at my team, that was not going to work for us. So I had to change, and it's worked for the better.
Yeah, great. And what have you enjoyed the least about managing the fast growth?
So I've actually recently changed this. I've unsubscribed from hustle culture. I mean, I have, worked myself to the ground in these last few years. This is not my first business, but I know I come from a family of workaholics. I come from a family that doesn't celebrate participant ribbons. We don't celebrate fifth place. And so, burnout was very real. And so I think what I miss, to answer your question, just like missing out on special occasions, missing out on family time. I think I don't believe in balance. I believe in work-life integration. And I feel like, one ball is going to drop every day. You just have to choose which ball is going to drop, and you can't have everything all the time. But I think I do a better job of decision-making now.
It's a really good perspective to have, I think. And what do you love most about growing a small business?
I like getting scrappy. I love smiling through the wars. I love meeting other startup founders and exchanging battle wounds, battle scars. I think that it's, who knows what's going to happen in the future. I hope to be an entrepreneur for the rest of my life, but I think it's the most terrifying and electrifying experience I will ever have in my life.
It's a lot of fun, isn't it? And it can be quite addictive.
Absolutely. And depressing at times.
Yeah. What's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
The biggest mindset shift. I guess just getting clear on what exactly I want out of this journey. Why, am I here because of the money? Am I here to impact people? Am I here because I want to, build my character? Just getting really clear. I think, I call the startup world the matrix, and I feel like sometimes it can fog your vision, and you can get caught up in keeping up with everyone else. And so I think the biggest mindset shift happens, when I start my day. Before I reach for my laptop and my phone, I make sure that I have at least half an hour to 45 minutes to myself to be alone with my thoughts, to do my meditation, to do my affirmations, to put pen to paper and just figure out how am I going to conquer the day today? What's the frog that I'm going to eat? So making that a consistent part of my routine is really important to me.
What's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Resilience, the ability to bounce back, because shit's always going to happen every single day. People are going to piss you off. You're going to be angry. You have to bounce back from that shit. You can't allow yourself. There are times where, I've been in bed and I might've been, just in my feelings, and I talked myself out of it, so I think resilience and your ability to bounce back and how quickly you bounce back from a setback is really important.
Yeah, totally.
Jump over to growasmallbusiness.com and leave your details to get a short 2-minute email I send on Fridays to help small business owners like you become better leaders. I include some reading or professional development resources I've discovered in the last week.
And can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't look at resumes. I need to catch a vibe with you, right? And oftentimes I'll have a simple conversation, I'll ask some questions. I don't do much of the interviewing at this stage, but in the beginning, for me, it's about chemistry, because the technicalities I feel like I can teach. I feel like that can be learned over time. I need to know if we're actually going to get along, and I need to know, how does your role within my company fit into the bigger picture of your life? That's very important to me, because that will inform my decisions as to how I lead you and how I can help and support you. I think that people are driven by different things at different stages of their life. And it's really important that I'm informed and I know that, so that we can be a better team.
The two things I look for when hiring is attitude and aptitude. Get a smart person. You can teach them what they need to know about their job, but attitude is the bigger one, I think. For, cultural fit, alignment with your mission and your purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think the best ideas come to my team outside of work, right? So I think it's really, right now we're planning a writing retreat, right? And I think it's really important to do shit outside of the normal routine. And so, yeah, I'm very open to feedback as well. I think it has to be a two-way street. This is not a dictatorship. So open dialogue, honest dialogue, and also making sure that there's moments of creativity and inspiration outside of the normal work that we do day to day.
Yeah, great. Tell our audience how you've handled balance. You said you don't believe in it. It's more about integration, but you do meditation and your affirmation journal, etc. So anything else around balance that you do to help?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety in 2010. I've lived with depression pretty much my entire life, to be honest. And so I think that the world is going through a mental health crisis right now, and everyone's formula is going to look different. I believe in talking to your medical professional. I believe in taking breaks. I believe in establishing boundaries. Oftentimes, we can get caught up, and our clients can hit us up at all hours of the night. Like, I don't feel compelled to answer them right away. I think you really just need to know, what are your non-negotiables? What are the principles that you're not going to allow to bend? Because when you do become flexible and you do bend on your principles, that's when life becomes very chaotic. So, I work out 3 times a week. I see a therapist. I think every entrepreneur should definitely see a therapist, even on the good days. It's really about fine-tuning your mental state, not just when you're falling apart.
Yeah, that's a really good point, I think, because there is a lot of pressure on business owners, not just starting up, but running and growing. And
Absolutely.
shit goes wrong like COVID last year. That's obviously put a phenomenal amount of stress on businesses and people and owners. So, yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice. How much professional development have you invested in yourself over the years?
I mean, several thousands of dollars. I have several mentors. I fly out to wherever they are in the world, and we spend time together. I still shadow them. There's always the typical conference, but I'm really big on like learning from real life experiences. Every one of my mentors, I have interned for them. I've worked for them. I've done special projects for them. I have job shadowed them. I've volunteered for their companies, and I continue to do that. They've mentored me since my 20s, but I continue to do that because I think it's important to hit reset and to always be a student. So for me, it's just about making, the sacrifice of pulling myself away from my day to day to spend time with seasoned entrepreneurs. And honestly, my work as a journalist, when I interview the wealthiest and the smartest, over at Forbes, that's a masterclass in itself, right? I'm conducting a couple dozen interviews a month. And so I'm learning, and I get to ask anything I want. And honestly, it's like a front row seat.
Great. What a wonderful resource you've got access to there. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so you've had mentors. Anything else on mentors or coaches that you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the most important conversations, difference between mentors and sponsors. My mentors operate as both, but I think, beyond mentors, you want sponsors, you want advocates, someone who's going to really, vouch for you and advocate for you when you're not in the room, who's going to bring your name into the conversation. Because, if you're a young founder, especially, some of the rooms you just won't be invited into. Some of the conversations, people will look over you. I mean, you can have someone to advocate for you. I think that's your best bet. Mentors are my way of standing shoulders of giants. It's my way of having someone edit my work. You don't have to do this shit by yourself, and you shouldn't. I think that people are more than willing to help you. But you also have to prove as a mentee, you have to prove, why you should, you have to prove why you should be helped, and why, the mentors want to return on their investment. If they're going to invest time into you, they want to return. So I think it's about doing what you can with what you have, and then raising your hands.
Yeah, I think a lot of business owners don't use this resource because they think mentors, experienced business people a bit further down the road than me, or maybe in a different industry, won't have the time. But especially those that are established, their businesses have been going for a while, they really want to help others and give back. So all you need to do is ask. Go and
absolutely
find someone you think would really help you, and then ask them for a lunch once a month, or a coffee, or a drink. But importantly, make sure you do your homework. If they say contact this person, read this book, do this, etc.
Exactly.
It's otherwise you're wasting their time.
Absolutely. And you said something really interesting about sometimes they don't feel like they have the time. As the mentee, it's really up to you to set those parameters and set those expectations of how much time you need of this person. Yeah. I have one mentor, his name is Stuart. He's been mentoring me for 9 years, and we've had one call once a month for an hour for 9 years.
Wow.
And we've been very consistent, and that's all I need, 1 hour once a month. And he's like, I can do that. That's fine.
Yeah, that's great. And do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, I don't have a board of directors. I have my mentors who advise me, but no official team.
All right, Pauleanna, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
The hardest thing in growing a small business is managing people. managing people for sure. Different personalities. People take feedback differently. Some people are crybabies, other people are stronger than others. So just managing people.
Oh, hallelujah. Totally agree. One of my favorite sayings is a Texan saying, I think it is, definition of conflict is two people in the same county. Managing a team's like herding cats, and everyone's got their different personalities, bad days, good days, shit going on at home,
exactly.
Relationships, whatever. Yeah. But and it's where the value is, because you can't do it on your own.
Absolutely.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Right now, I'm actually reading a book called Blockbuster by Anita Elberst. She's a Harvard professor. She's the professor of the business of media, entertainment, and sports at Harvard University. And so I just literally cracked open the first page today, but I've been following her work for years, and I think she's phenomenal. So I know it's going to be amazing.
Is that on the Blockbuster video chain or something else?
No. It's her own phrase that she's coined.
Got it. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I really love studying the stories of other founders. I love how I built this. That's probably like one of my primary that I go to, because it's fun. And you know what? The host asks fantastic questions. I think that's what makes it so good.
Yep. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Project management system. I mean, that could be anything from Monday to Asana to, ClickUp, anything. Get a project manager, stay organized. I use Monday currently, and Google Drive is where we store, I know some of my founder friends use Dropbox and whatnot, but
Dropbox is so 1980s. Oh my God. Don't start me on that. I love Google Work. I think it's called Workplace now, G Suite. Yeah, it's awesome. Mm-hmm. Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
To trust yourself.
Great.
Trust yourself as you weather the storms.
Yep. Terrific. Thanks, Pauleanna. I think the audience get a lot of value out of our conversation today, and really appreciate your time. Congratulations on the growth and the success, and good luck on your march to the $1 million per annum mark.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
And for our audience, we'd greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.